All right, I'm going to test out the volume here. Thank you for coming and listening. Let me know if you can hear me all right. I want to make sure that I have the volume up. Let's take a look here. Okay, if the volume's needs to be changed, just let me know about that. Sounds pretty loud for me, but I want to make sure everyone can hear. And with that, I'll get going. Let me know if I need to change anything. So, it was November 5th that I launched Nantucket E-Books with version 1.0, which I call Ishmael, after the main character in Moby Dick. And now, as the year comes to a close, I'm very excited to announce that we're ready for version 1.1 of the software. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can expect in version 1.1. I have some other good news that I'd like to share with you. And then after that, I'm excited to share some updates on a new initiative that I'm creating with Nantucket eBooks that will be for building a public domain, works that are in the public domain. So I'm very excited to go through that as well. I think I'll start with the good news. I've made a Nantucket eBooks initially for my own writing. I wanted to present my own work in the best way possible, and I looked around at the other options for distributing ebooks online, and I thought there needs to be a better option, and so that led me to create this platform. And I knew that with what I had created, that this could be something of great benefit. Cool. Volume's good. That this could be something that would really benefit other authors as well. And at this point, I'm very happy to say that we have a couple other authors who have seen Nantucket eBooks, and they really like what it's able to give them. So right now on the site, we've got a short story by author David W. Stoner, who is in Longmont. You can read his short story Gypsy on the site. And we also have a new cyberpunk serialized novel called The Curtains Are Blue, which is being produced by the Human Trust. And so periodically there will be new chapters updated for that. And I'm really excited with that. In particular, The Curtains Are Blue is quite exciting for me because they put a lot of effort into the audiobook. And one of the things that I think is really powerful about Nantucket eBooks is that the audiobook is built right in, so you don't have to switch apps or switch sites in order to listen to the audiobook. And they did a fantastic job, and I think it really showcases how powerful these ebooks are. So I want to definitely give a big thanks to, just a second here. I definitely want to give a big thanks to the Human Trust and to David Stoner for joining me on this. I'm really glad that it's working for them. So next, I think I'll talk about some updates I've made to the core technology. There's three things that are so there's three core things that make the Nantucket eBooks work. The first is that there's a parser, which is a program that reads through your manuscript and translates that into an HTML file that can hook up with the other programs and give you a great reading experience. The second part is a style sheet, which controls how the ebook looks online. And the third part is a program called Ahab, which controls all the interactive features that the ebooks have. So when I talk about Nantucket ebook software, those are the three core programs that I put the effort into. And now we've been ready for the first update to Nantucket eBooks, and I'll walk you through some of those different parts here. Give me just a second to get my notepad up. Let's see, I'm going to take this one. And I will go to the site. Here is our ebook for The Curtains Are Blue, right here. And if I click on it, if I go down to the very bottom, we have our audiobook credits at the bottom. So these are all voiceover artists that were involved in the production of the audiobook. And they're all listed in this section here. If you're up at here and you were to go into the audiobook edition, so you're here, there's this little button here that's going to say credits. And so if I click on that button, it takes me down to the credit section where I can look at who was involved. So now it's very easy. I'll show you an example here. So let's see. If I was, my note. here to my, it's going to look like this. It's going to take it all into a list, put it into a list form at the end of the credits. So that's a new feature that's going to be in all future versions of Nantucket eBooks. My browser. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to and partly motivated by creating this new version 1.1, I now like to show you I have an ebook for one of my favorite books, Candide by Voltaire. So this shows a lot of the powerful features we have. But first I'm going to show you how the audiobooks work. So I'm going to go into my audio player here, and I've loaded it up as the introduction here. And this audiobook is the LibriVox audiobook for Candide. It's read by a really great narrator named Ted DeLorme, and I highly encourage you to listen to it. So here we are at the beginning of it, and I'm going to skip ahead to the end. And at the end, you're going to watch what happens here.
This is a LibriVox recording.
So you're seeing that it reached the end of
Candide
the introduction.
By Voltaire.
Goes straight into chapter 1.
How Candide was brought up in a magnificent castle, and how he was expelled thence.
Okay.
In a castle of Westphalia.
So just to give you some more examples of how this is working.
.org. Read by Ted DeLorme in Fort Mill, South Carolina, in January 2007.
So it reaches the end. And now it goes to chapter 2.
Recording.
It just seamlessly
by Voltaire.
goes through.
Chapter 2.
And what happens if we are at the end of the ebook? I don't know if I've ever shown you this, but when you have an audiobook that has several files, what you do is you click up in this menu here, and it will take you into a full screen menu of all the different chapters. So this is a 30 chapter book. The chapters are pretty short in Candide though. So let's go to chapter 30, and I'm going to go to the end here. And I'm just using these buttons. I want to make sure I'm, yes. Oh, you can't see me. I'm sorry about that. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to be over here so you can actually see what I'm doing. Down here, we've got the scrubber buttons. So if I hit this one, it's going to go back 1 minute. If I hit this one, it's going to go forward 1 minute. And these will go forward and backward 15 seconds. And it's just by touch if you're on a smartphone or an iPad. So it makes for really easy navigation. And so there I'm at the end. And we're just going to listen
the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Ted DeLorme in Fort Mill, South Carolina during January 2007. Thank you for listening.
Time here. 7, 8, 9. So, thank you for listening. And it takes me back to the introduction. It resets everything. So that is that's probably the biggest feature that I'm excited to share with version 1.1, is that it's going to give readers the ability to have a much more seamless audiobook experience. All right. A few other things. There's been some updates to the style sheet. In particular, we're making it easier to print out an ebook. If for some reason you wanted to print it out and read it as a physical copy, the physical copy is going to be very nice and presentable. This is sort of an ongoing project to work on the print media query, but in version 1.1 we're taking the first steps on that process. And so far it's looking really good. It hides a lot of the interactive features and improves the margins. Just a second here. Oh, cool. And let me get myself back where I was. Move myself back over here. All right. So, I'm not sure I would be able to really give you an example here, but if I hit Control P to print this out, it's going to bring up the print menu, and essentially it's going to create a custom layout just for when you print it, so that it looks good on paper. And I hope I can show this to you here. Oh yes, cool. So you can see this here. We've got our print menu, and it's not going to show like the dark mode. It's not going to show any of the menu icons that we see over here. It's just going to lay it out like this. So it has its own rules for how it looks in print form. This is something that was suggested to me that sometimes, particularly for like the user manual for the Shanty markup language, sometimes people like to print it out and read it in physical form. And so I spent quite a bit of time making it look, making the manual look good on print, and also our new FAQ section, adding the media queries for that. And so that's something I'll be continuing to work on. Let's see what else. Nope. Over here. So now I'd like to to go over it again, we have autoplay. We've got some improved queries for how it looks when you print out an ebook, and some improved syntax for how we deal with adding credits to audiobooks. So I think that those are all big improvements that I'm excited to share with the writers who are using Nantucket eBooks. It's going to make it a lot more straightforward when you're writing your projects, and you'll know that you're giving the very best reading experience to your readers. But with that in mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about my new project for public domain ebooks. Just before Christmas, I announced I had a little Christmas surprise for everybody. I had an ebook of A Christmas Carol, and I'll bring that up here. So over here we've got A Christmas Carol, and let me make sure that's loading right. Excellent. This is So this is a version of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and it's got some really excellent illustrations. And this is part of a new project I'm doing to bring sort of public domain literature into the Nantucket format. And I thought I'd start with A Christmas Carol, with the holidays being as they are. And it's a good opportunity to show the full extent of what Nantucket eBooks can do. Thought I'd share some of it with you right now. So we've got our cover here that's got, it's the first edition of A Christmas Carol. And then we have our inline table of contents that includes a list of all the illustrations that you'll find in the book, and then the different chapters. And the different lists for illustrations and chapters, that comes from antiquarian books, where you'd have a list of all the plates that were included with the work, and then you'd have all the different sections. And it's a nice thing at the beginning to kind of see what the overall structure of the book's going to be. It gives you some sense of what to expect. This particular ebook is based off an edition that had illustrations by George Williams. It started with a frontispiece, so it's got this really nice color illustration here. You've got Bob Cratchit carrying Tiny Tim. As with all Nantucket ebooks, you can focus on the illustrations. You can just tap on it here, and it will give you the illustration on one side, and then you'll have a caption that accompanies the illustration. And of course, let's take a look at what this would appear as on another device. So here we are on an iPhone in portrait mode. We've got the illustration on top and then the caption below. If we go into landscape mode, it goes side by side. And let's bring it back into desktop mode. Just a second. Just checking on the audio here. And then we have like special formatting for lyrics or poetry over on this side. We've got them singing God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. And then, let's see here. Further down, we've got some of the other illustrations, which the rest are in black and white. But if I click on it, we can focus it again. And then this one comes with an audiobook as well. So I'll open it up here. We've got our dark mode, of course. Inverts all the text. And bring it back. And then let's look at the audiobook here. We've got our cover on this side. And then this is another one that includes multiple chapters. So if I click here, we've got our full screen menu of all the different chapters within the book, and I can click here. And this one's going to use a LibriVox audiobook that was narrated by Elizabeth Clutt, and this is an audio drama, so it's one of those things that has different. It's going to have different voice actors for the different characters. So let's see here.
Chapter 2 of A Christmas Carol. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
So you can just play that here.
By Charles Dickens. Chapter 2. The First of the Three Spirits.
And as always, over here you can just mute it.
So dark that looking out of bed he could scarcely distinguish.
Pause it. Then I can close the audiobook there. And again, you can put thematic breaks like this gradient line here. And here's another illustration. And this one's in portrait mode. So let's see. You recollect the way, inquired the spirit. Remember it, cried Scrooge with fervor. I could walk it blindfold. And so after I did A Christmas Carol, of course we got our other table of contents here if we don't want to have to go all the way back up to the top. It's going to have our illustrations here If I go back to the menu, I'd like to show you some more with Candide. Here we are. Okay. This one also has an illustrator, so you've got your author here by Voltaire, and then you got a credit for the illustrator, Jean-Michel Lejeune Moreau. That means the younger. You've got these different illustrations here. Got the introduction. And so for this one, I'd like to, this one has some really excellent footnotes, and I'd like to show you how those work. Here we've got our first footnote about the name Pangloss, which is the name of Candide's instructor. So if I click on this little button here, this little link here that says 1, click on that, it's going to take me down to the footnotes section at the bottom. And it will tell me the name Pangloss is derived from 2 Greek words signifying all and language. Now that I've read that, I want to keep reading. And I just click on the button here again, and it's going to take me back up to the top. And let me find the one that has to do with multiple footnotes. Here we are. So this is toward the end of the book, and there's a famous section in Candide where he meets with 6 monarchs in exile, 6 monarchs that have been thrown out of their home countries, and they talk about kind of what led them there. It's part of Voltaire's criticism of government. And so in this part, we have some different, Voltaire is talking about some pretty specific historical events. So here we've got, because a poor beggar of the country of Autre-Béty, if I click on that, it's talking about different old assassination attempts of European monarchs. And if I click back, and then I can check like this one here, 30. On May 14th, 1610, Ravaillac assassinated Henry VI. Click back up, and then we have another one about December 31st. And it talks about that. So this is a paragraph that has 3 different footnotes. And instead of having to go back and forth, remembering your page numbers, it's all done with links, and I think that's something really cool. Another thing I'll show you here, I added an about the author section right here. So you can have about the author. We've got this nice engraving of Voltaire and a very brief discussion of what he was about, and that took me about 5 minutes to put together. I just had to create a chapter heading, put in an image, then wrote a few paragraphs, and that's all I really had to do. So that just shows you how powerful the syntax is behind this. You just add a little bit of markup, and the program takes care of the rest. And it really is my hope that I can do more of these public domain books. This is completely free. You can go to my website, nantucketebooks.com, and read this. I think it's really powerful because there is so much of public domain literature that's online, but it's maybe not presented in the most readable format. It can be in a very small, let me show you an example here. Go back to my menu, back to the main page. Yes, here we are. So like here's Moby Dick, as I've mentioned before. This is how it would look on Project Gutenberg. It's incredible that you can have that full text available online, but I don't know how useful it is if it's so difficult to read. But if we can make it presentable, get the nice mobile responsive text, softer background, makes it easier to read, that really opens it up to more people. And when you can combine audiobooks with that you can also listen to it too, then you're taking it to a whole other level entirely. So it is my hope to do a lot more of these, and I'm actually going to be reaching out to some some organizations that are centered around authors whose works are in the public domain, and seeing if they would have any interest in this, especially now that I'm working with authors who can talk about the value that these ebooks bring to their readership. So with that in mind, I could talk about some ways that people could help with a project like this. Just a minute here. Okay. So I have started a Patreon page